All right, guys, happy Monday from London. And it is a happy Monday indeed because I won. I didn't expect it. I played it cool, but it's recently now been announced that it is me. I am the Antisemite of the Year. Yeah. I was named by the watchdog group appropriately named Stop Antisemitism because apparently Jewish people everywhere are terrified when they wake up and they envision who to be terrified about. It's little old me. We've definitely got to discuss that. Also, I really want to get to Caitlin Clark because she has been under fire recently. She gave an interview to Time magazine because she was their athlete of the year, and she mentioned her white privilege. And people are outraged on the right, which is different because normally the left is outraged about her. And I don't know if I'm just like getting soft in my old age, but I am like Team Caitlin Clark, and I find the conservative response to be very annoying. So we're going to discuss that, all that, plus more coming up on Candace. All right, where do we begin? I think we just have to jump right into this amazing New York Post article. And it's amazing because of not just how they announced it, but the quote that they were able to get from Stop Antisemitism's founder, which is a woman named Leora Rez. So they announced that firebrand pundit Candace Owens has been named the Antisemite of the Year by the watchdog group Stop Antisemitism. They say that she, quote, blew the competition away with more votes than anyone in previous years. Right there, amazing. It's like so much is going on. If you really got to paint a picture of yourself of who is terrifying the Jewish community, like who is the second coming of Adolf Hitler. It used to be Donald Trump. They're over that. Now he's in the cover of Time magazine. But also Adolf Hitler was once upon a time in the cover of Time magazine. Anyways, the point is now they've realized the field has been cleared by me, Candace Owens, okay? This is the quote that Leora Rez gave. It is exceptional. She said, Candace Owens's witch's brew of anti-Semitism drew from vile medieval blood libels, including claims that Jews drink Christian blood, conspiracies that Jews are pedophiles who control the media and are taking over America, and modern toxic anti-Israel hysteria. There is no psychotic rabbit hole too extreme for this poisonous hater. And I just wonder, like, when people give quotations like that, and then when publications decide to publish quotations like that, are they really in that much of a vacuum? Is this just like a feedback loop amongst people that are like Likud party journalists where they don't realize how completely warped and deranged they sound to even put these things on paper? Like no one believes this. Obviously, nobody believes this. And look no further than the New York Post comment section. It was exceptional, just completely being ratioed everywhere. You got to go on Instagram. I'm going to read you a few of these comments, but people were just reaching out. We were getting donations. They were angry at the New York Post for this, making a mockery of it. Even Grok, which is like X's AI program, were like, yeah, Candace has been named Anti-Semite of the Year, but there has been some mixed reactions. So I'm going to read some of these mixed reactions on Instagram. This user wrote, "This is how you try and destroy someone through insidious rumors, and then later God finds a way to vindicate the flock of pariahs." Honestly, I'm not a fan of hers, but come on. This next person writes, "She was hoping to get it. Ha ha ha. Candace is a truth teller. Hashtag Christ is King." This person writes, "Wow." And she had some serious competition. I did. This person writes, "Israel rating American citizens by how well behaved they are. The nerve of these people." This person says, "The truth doesn't make you anti-anything. She's a hero. Only genocide supporters would call her an anti-Semite. The truth will get you canceled. Candace is great. Israel should be marked as anti-Christian of the year after what they did in Syria." So it's not going well, I would say, for like the pro-Israel lobby. People are not falling for this sort of a thing. But it's interesting to see that they have not stopped the onslaught of slander and libel this entire year when any person just wants them to practically debate why it is that America should be married to the foreign policy aims of Bibi Netanyahu and the Likud party. It makes entirely no sense. It's interesting if you just actually reflect and think about this, though. Years ago, and by years ago, I would say if I could pinpoint it, at 8 years ago, it really mattered if someone called you a white supremacist. Like the idea of being called a white supremacist or being called a racist, it was so shocking and jarring to someone, you would do anything to correct the record. And in that, it gave people so much power. to just yield that, to wield it and to yield it whenever you wanted to. And then what happened was BLM came around and we started realizing, oh, wait, this is not actually about racism, or this is not about fighting white supremacy. This is actually about a group of people that want to amass power by making other people shut up because they can't actually debate their ideas. And so we learned that. That was kind of the lesson and the takeaway from BLM, and nobody took accusations of racism seriously from then on, for better or worse. I would think probably the pinnacle of that was like George Floyd stuff. But now we're doing the exact same thing again with anti-Semitism. And it's so weird because you have people that are supposed to be brilliant who should work through that. This isn't going to work socially. It's not landing. People are getting tired, they're getting fatigued. You can't just keep calling everyone Adolf Hitler. You're taking the sting out of Adolf Hitler. People are now making jokes about Adolf Hitler because you just refer to every person that you have a disagreement with as a spawn of Hitler. Someone did a poster of me. They called me Ava Braun. It's just getting so ridiculous out there. And now we've moved into a world where nobody cares. Nobody cares, and people are starting to think it's funny, and they're competing to win these sorts of awards because it is a part of the woke Olympics. But I took this very seriously, primarily because I was quite shocked that it came down. A lot of people were in the field, as that person mentioned. Dan Bilzerian was named as a potential candidate to be Anti-Semite of the Year. He lost. I think Andrew and Tristan Tate had won a week or something. The two of them lost. Rashida Tlaib, she lost. And it came down to me and Greta Thunberg. I didn't really, poor Greta. I don't care. I know you guys are like, you don't like Greta. This girl literally has autism and has a stuffed octopus that quite literally every toddler in the world has a stuffed octopus. And this group, Stop Anti-Semitism, put her in a post and it was the worst form of anti-Semitism they'd ever seen. Greta Thunberg, who carries this octopus because she has disorder and this stuffed animal helps her, was an anti-Semite because apparently an octopus also is symbolic of Jews controlling the world. And I'm sure that's exactly what Greta Thunberg thought when she purchased it. But the reality is, of course, that Greta Thunberg, the reason they were really attacking her and libeling her and smearing her after saying she was a hero and after she was in the cover of Time magazine, man, these things change so fast culturally. She's on the cover. Now she's in the running to be Anti-Semite of the Year, was because she just spoke out on behalf of Palestinians, people who don't believe that they should be ruthlessly murdered by the Likud party terrorists. And that was her crime. So it came down to me and it came down to her because I guess we had a human take on what was happening to the Palestinians. But I want to take this seriously by putting together an acceptance speech. I wasn't expecting this, or I would have gone shopping. I would have worn a dress. I would have invited my family members and my friends to this. So this is sort of impromptu, but I did put together a couple of people, but I do want to thank for this incredible feat. So I'll just get started here. I think first and foremost, I want to thank the people who guided me here, the teachers who got me here, the teachers being the rabbis who got me here. You know, this journey really began for me with Rabbi Barclay, who I invited on to an earlier show of mine, and asked him a pretty basic question, which took him a very long time to answer. And that question was, could you just provide us with a definition of anti-Semitism? And here is what he had to say. Don't fall asleep. Could you provide for us a definition of anti-Semitism?
Absolutely. I really appreciate that because I think that is the break. If we're not speaking the same language, where can we go, right? So there's a man, a blessed memory man named Lord Jonathan Sachs, who was the chief rabbi of England. He had a great line. He really defined anti-Semitism, that anti-Semitism is Jews have no right to exist collectively as Jews with the same rights as other human beings. Which is kind of a weird statement. So let's just track back a bit to understand the history of anti-Semitism. 2,000 years ago, Jews don't accept Jesus as Messiah.
4 hours later.
In 1144, a young boy is killed, and the local priest says that's because the Jews need to make their matzah with Christian blood.
1 eternity later.
Because it's about Jews not having the right to exist collectively, when they live in their little communities in the Middle Ages, anti-Semitism is a hate against their religion. By the time you get to the 18th and 20th centuries, when so many Jews have assimilated, they are in culture, they are in arts, they're in science, it's no longer against them for their religion, it's against them for their race. This anti-Semitism is the oldest hate in the world, and the hate that mutates.
And there it is. There it is. It's whatever they want it to be, whenever they want it to be. And you might be an anti-Semite today for having a stuffed octopus, and it dates back to the Middle Ages, and then it goes on to the 11th century and the 12th century. But it is accepted by the experts that anti-Semitism is malleable. So if you piss off somebody, they can just call you an anti-Semite, and you have to accept that if those accusations are coming from somebody who is Jewish. Also want to thank somebody who contributed to me, I think, to the world a lot. And of course, that would be Rabbi Shmuley, another teacher, another leader. He and his hag daughter, who we will not leave out here, for demonstrating to the world really that our factory presets may have been wrong. If you guys were like me, I was kind of wandering around, and I just never in a million years could have envisioned Jewish people doing anything wrong. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's too many cultural films about the Holocaust, stuff that you learn in school. But I had never foreseen an individual quite like Rabbi Shmuley, who I think sort of shattered the narrative of Jewish people always being the victims. And he did this gloriously. I mean, the amount of harassment that I endured by him really culminated. His finest point this year was when he and his daughter called the FBI on me because they received a pineapple pizza to their house that they didn't order. And so the only logical conclusion would be like, Candace is trying to kill me or whatever. And truly, the Likud party media ran this story in earnest. In earnest. The FBI has been contacted about Candace Owens and a pineapple pizza. We didn't receive an update on that Jerusalem Post, by the way. If you could let us know how that investigation is going, because there's no worse victimhood, and there is, I can think of no demented more form of anti-Semitism than when someone receives a pineapple pizza that they didn't order. We're very serious people here in the West. I think I would be remiss if I didn't also thank Ben Shapiro just for being Ben Shapiro. I think we all just want to thank Ben Shapiro for being Ben Shapiro. He's just a phenomenal human being who is well loved. And lastly, of course, some people walked so I could run. And I can think of no person who walked further than Kanye West. My dear friend. I absolutely love you, Kanye. I'm gonna tell you one thing. The conversation is very different than it was 2 years ago when Kanye West won this award, and he did not accept it. I don't know where he was. He's somewhere in Tokyo now. I bumped into him a couple of months ago. But I do want to borrow from his Grammy acceptance speech because it's incredibly relatable, and it is exactly how I am feeling right now. Take a listen.
Everybody wants to know what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
Woo! I did it, you guys. I guess we'll never know. You guys thought I was going to spaz out, freak out. No, I won. Fair and square. Take that. All jokes aside, though, you guys, obviously, we know the anti-Semitism, that the charge no longer has any real meaning, because if it did have any real meaning, the person who would have won for Anti-Semite of the Year would have been Bibi Netanyahu himself. Obviously, there has been no individual that has murdered and killed and maimed more actual Semites than Bibi Netanyahu has done this year. And he deserves to be investigated and put under arrest by the ICC. He is going through a corruption trial pertaining to what's happening in October 7th. And the people that the Likud party media are targeting are those who are following this corruption trial in earnest and recognizing that something went very wrong on October 7th, and a person who is being accused of, changing the transcripts on October 7th and intentionally feeding the West false narratives, as he is being accused of right now in Israel, even though your Western media will not cover this, is somebody that is suspicious, a person who has been caught on tape saying that he never meant to have peace with the Palestinians. In case you guys have not seen that clip, I know I showed it before, but this is a really good teaching moment for you guys regarding the Abraham Accords. Bibi Netanyahu was speaking to a reporter. He asked the reporter to turn the cameras off, and this is what he had to say about his ambitions, if you will, against the Palestinians, and how he lied, and how he is easily able to manipulate the American people really into believing that they're the victims while they're the aggressors. Take a listen. He says the main thing is, first of all, to strike them, not once, but several times, so painfully that the price they pay is unbearable. So far, the price tag is not unbearable. I mean, a large-scale attack on the Palestinian Authority, causing them to fear that everything is about to collapse. Fear is what brings them. Hold on, this woman asked. But then again, the world will say that we're the aggressors. The reporter's saying this. They're going to say that we're the aggressors. He says they can say whatever they want. But aren't you afraid of what they'll say, Bibi? Aren't you afraid? Bibi Netanyahu answers and says, and she says, especially today with the U.S., aren't you afraid of what they'll say? Bibi answers and says, I know how they are, United States. America is something that you can easily maneuver and move in the right direction. And even if they say something, so they can say something, so what? 80% of Americans support us. It's absurd. Look, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid to confront Clinton. I wasn't afraid to go against the UN. What happened with the Oslo Accords? The accords, which were ratified by Parliament, I was asked before the 1996 elections, will you fulfill them? I said, yes, subject to reciprocity. I gave my own interpretation to the agreements in such a way that will allow me to stop the race back towards the 1967 borders. How do we manage this? Well, because nobody defined what the military facilities were. So I defined them as being buffer zones, the entire Jordan Valley for me. Nobody has. I mean, this is just an incredible clip. He's basically saying, don't care what America says. Don't care if the UN says. I will defy them. I will mock them. I will be tricky. The Oslo Accords, I was never going to make good on that. I was never going to allow Palestine to become a state. I realized that I could maneuver the language. And he's laughing. He is caught on camera saying this way before October 7th. And yet you still have Americans who are not awake to the fact that our foreign policy is being dictated by this man. Yep. Billions of dollars going into the Middle East, not benefiting Americans whatsoever. And again, these Likud party journalists they're not dually loyal. Do not accuse them of being dually loyal. They are loyal to Israel. And if that's not despicable enough, there's also the footage that is being suppressed. Bibi Netanyahu essentially threatening people in the West. Any person that stands against Israel is going to face consequences. So you're talking about a person that is close to calling for a genocide, calling for censorship, and calling for people who live in America and have freedom. We have the freedom to express our beliefs, to be boycotted, and to face consequences if they stand in the way of his party initiatives. Take a listen. In the last few years, we have promoted in the USA, and there are now laws in most states there, that anyone who boycotts Israel will themselves be punished. So it won't help them. We don't care, and we are fighting it. And for those of us who have eyes and are on social media, obviously watching the Holocaust of the Palestinians has been something that has been upsetting. And so we will show you what we can on YouTube because, well, most of this stuff is censored thanks to the hundreds of millions of dollars that AIPAC has spent over the years on our politicians in DC and on our journalists. But here is just a clip from last week.
If Gaza is a hellscape, these men are walking deeper into it, a lower circle still. This ruin, still alight, was moments earlier a post office building. Dozens of people had been sheltering here. A young girl is somehow brought out from the wreckage. No equipment, no uniforms, but these rescuers know what they're doing. A collective muscle memory after more than 14 months of unrelenting horror. Those waiting in the street helping light the way.
So here is how it works. Let me help you out. If you are speaking using genocidal language, if you are calling for censorship, if you are calling for boycotting, if you are calling for individuals to be banned from countries, as the Zionist Federation of Australia did when they found out that I was coming to Australia, and you wake up one day and you find that the world is not on your side, let me tell you, it's not because you're Jewish. It's because you're annoying, you're hypocritical, and people are rightfully calling you out. And if you think that petty smears and libels and really kind of what I just see now as like these petty acts of vengeance being executed against people's reputations is going to work long term, well, then you might want to keep checking the comment sections of posts like the New York Post and Stop Anti-Semitism when they go after people. And I would say really what I think cinched the win for me, and I don't think anybody can regret this or could deny this rather, it was really our interview with the USS Liberty survivor Phil Turney. At the very end of the year, dropping that obviously seemed to rip a hole through the universe. People that just didn't know just how dishonest our media could be on insisting that Israel is our friend and ally as they bury the various things that Israel has been involved in, plotting terrorist attacks and trying to blame them on Arabs, as they did with the USS Liberty, as they did with the Levant affair. People are just becoming more educated, and it's in large part thanks to independent media endeavors, but also in large part thanks to organizations like Stop Antisemitism, who have grown so hysterical and so cartoonish that they couldn't possibly maintain people on their side, short of people who are, toddlers and emotional. So I'm very proud of myself. Thank you for all of you who voted for me, and I will do my best in the future to win Antisemite of the Galaxy, because I think if we do like a Star Wars edition, Antisemite of the Galaxy, then people will really see that this is about victimhood, and maybe it'll be me up against the same people, and I have a feeling that I will win. All right, guys, taking a moment to remind you about Preborn, because every baby's life is a precious gift full of potential and dreams that are waiting to unfold. That's why Preborn, the nation's largest pro-life organization, is on the front lines for at-risk babies and mothers that are facing unplanned pregnancies. Preborn's network of clinics are positioned in the highest abortion rate areas in the country. They're equipping these clinics with the resources they need to save these precious lives and provide compassionate support to mothers for up to 2 years after birth. As abortion continues to rise, Preborn is expanding their life-affirming care to help more hurting women and save more lives. If you have the means, please consider a leadership gift to save babies in a very big way. A tax-deductible donation of $15,000 will place an ultrasound machine in a women's center, saving countless lives for years to come. And now, Preborn will match your gift, doubling the donation amount. To donate, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Again, that's pound 250 baby. Or you can donate securely at preborn.com/Candace. Again, that's preborn.com/Candace. All right, so Caitlin Clark, honestly, she is a name that everybody's familiar with because the majority of people do not watch the WNBA. This has not anything to do with discrimination against women. It's just that women don't tend to be as interested in sports as men are. Obviously, she has been a young superstar. Suddenly, she's everywhere. She's being hotly debated. Anyways, she rightfully won Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. Like I said, she has made such a splash in the WNBA that it would have been ridiculous had she had not won this award. But of course, because controversy follows her everywhere, she gave an interview to Time Magazine and she said something and people were furious about it. So I'm going to read you the exact quotation of what it is that she said. She said, quote, "I want to say I've earned every single thing, but as a white person, there is privilege. A lot of those players in the league that have been really good have been black players. This league has kind of been built on them. The more we can appreciate that, highlight that, talk about that, and then continue to have brands and companies invest in those players that have made this league incredible, I think it's very important. I have to continue to try to change that. The more we can elevate black women, that's going to be a beautiful thing." Okay, end quote. But cue the outrage. People were like, oh my goodness, how could she say this? How could she speak about white privilege? For clarity, Caitlin Clark is 22 years old. I think that's really important and relevant to this. And I'm not sure when she became, or in people's minds, like she was supposed to have like fully formed political opinions. I found that to be pretty harmless, but not everybody did. And Megyn Kelly went viral for really just freaking out on Caitlin Clark. I'm just going to let you hear Megyn Kelly in her own words.
Totally insincere. And here's how you know it's totally insincere. Because if Caitlin Clark really felt uncomfortable in the spotlight as the newbie who's white, because white people didn't build the league, she wouldn't have said yes to being Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year. So either walk the walk or don't. But what you're doing here is trying to have it both ways. You're too cute by half, and you've managed to piss off your fan base. Go ahead and look at my Twitter feed and the comments under my tweet on this. She's lost thousands of fans, maybe more, as a result of this. And you will never appease the race bullies in the WNBA, ever, because you're too popular, you're too talented, and too white.
Okay, so it's a little too much outrage for me. I think it's a little ridiculous. I think we are holding her to an impossible standard. She's 22 years old. I don't know a single commentator out there, Megyn Kelly included, who did not at some point throughout their political career have the wrong perspectives. But for whatever reason, we've decided Caitlyn's not allowed that time to grow. She's not allowed time to change. She's got to be a perfect MAGA candidate and I guess stand up to the entire mob. This girl's literally being bullied, physically bullied, I will say, by the way, on the court. And we know the basis of that is quite racist. I think she just wants to survive. I think genuinely Caitlyn just wants to survive. I think if she could be invisible and never have to speak about race again, she'd be very happy, but they're not going to allow her to do that. She just wants to play basketball and be great at a sport that she loves. But of course, she is now in an environment where everything is so heavily politicized and she just wants to survive. She just wants to maybe not get elbow checked every single time she dribbles the ball. And so you have this woman who's 22 years old and you have someone like Megan maybe 50, 52, 54. The point that I'm making here is not about Megan's age, but just how much she's changed her viewpoints. Megan supported the trans agenda like 6 years ago, right? When she was a fully formed adult. Why? Because she just wanted to survive at ABC News, right? Megan was a part of the anti-Trump early movement. Now, who knows what motivated that? She said she changed down the line, but we've afforded her all of those changes and all of those privileges, and she still has a platform, and we understand that it takes time to develop and to maybe see why certain things are wrong. She can't extend that to Caitlin Clark at the ripe age of 22 years old. I just think it's unfair. I think it's totally unfair. And like I said, it's not exactly like we've turned to WNBA players to be our Plato and Aristotles of the time. I don't exactly think that they sit down and deeply consider these topics. She's not LeBron James, who's older, who's got a family. She didn't take a knee and say, I hate the American flag. She just kind of softly threw it back to the black women in the league who are many of who are upset with her existence. Not all of them have been petty, but this is the same stuff that happens even in rap music. If you remove the race element, people don't like a rookie that comes in and gets all of the attention, whether you're talking about the Little Kim to Nicki Minaj to Cardi B. This is pretty standard that when a rookie comes in, they expect you to throw it back to the people that have been there forever. And you're supposed to say like, oh yeah, we wouldn't exist if it wasn't for, Foxy Brown, if it wasn't for Lil' Kim, if it wasn't for this individual. It's pretty harmless. I disagree with her. I think she's wrong. I don't think it has anything to do with white privilege, but I also understand the predicament that she's in every day when every single thing she does is being completely racialized and she's being bullied. She's like the new kid on the block that is being bullied every single day. And I think she just wants to survive in the high school hallway. And so I hate to see the left outrage machine going after her and then the right outrage machine going after her. And I think just give her a tiny bit of grace, a tiny bit of time to feel comfortable in her own skin within the WNBA, time to get older, maybe to get married, and you definitively become infinitely more secure as a woman once you have a family and you realize that those moments don't really matter and you just kind of want to say things that make a difference. Let her play this game in the way that she's playing it socially, being polite and saying that there were all of these women before me who were in the WNBA. There were a lot of black women in the WNBA, but yes, her caliber of talent is something that hasn't exactly been seen. And so I just wanted to defend her because I think it's completely ridiculous. And still, by the way, when asked about the outrage of the right, Caitlin Clark took the high road, which I think is amazing. Like, she had every reason to just be like, can everybody just leave me alone? I hate conservatives. I hate liberals, whatever it is. She said this. She said, I think my best skill is just blocking out the noise, and hopefully it continues to be. Because with the way things are going and where the WNBA is going, you want that attention and you embrace it, and that's what makes this so fun. Just leave Caitlin Clark alone. Everybody just leave Caitlin Clark alone and allow her to dribble the ball and grow up. That's all I'm going to say about that topic. All right, guys, I want to take a minute to talk to you about our store over at Sticker Mule. It is packed with awesome Candace Owens merch, including stickers, t-shirts, keychains, buttons, and more. You can even buy a Candace temporary tattoo. With Christmas right around the corner, it's the perfect place to get your friends or family members who are also fans of the show the perfect stocking stuffer. Because like you, they have impeccable taste. So go to stickermule.com/Candace and check it out now. A big portion of sales will go directly to the Candace Show, supporting our mission to empower communities and promote free thought. Whether you want to show your support or just grab some cool gear, we've got you covered. From Christ is King t-shirts to conspiracy theorist stickers, head to Sticker Mule for all things Candace. Once again, go to stickermule.com/Candace. You can check it out right now. All right, some good news. Things are going to change. People are feeling tremendously optimistic, obviously, about RFK Jr. and the people that he is selecting around him. One such person is Aaron Siri, and he's basically RFK Jr.'s lawyer, and he is asking the FDA to revoke approval of the polio vaccine. The polio vaccine really is it's the linchpin to people waking up to Big Pharma having manipulated statistics, lying and using fear campaigns. Because even when I went anti-vax, obviously everyone knows I'm anti-vax, I'm proudly anti-vax, you would still find people that said, well, what about my polio? What about my polio? And they all really think that polio was eradicated, and that simply is not the truth. And the way that you can really find out that is not the truth is that the people that are staunchly against, or pro-vaccine rather, never want to debate it. They don't really know anything outside of what they were taught in a health class. Whereas the people that are anti-vax have done the due diligence, have done the work. You guys know I did my show, A Shot in the Dark, which I am so pleased to announce to you guys today officially will be coming back. You can follow the countdown if you go to CandaceOwens.com. A Shot in the Dark is officially coming back. I know so many mothers have been emailing us. We had to build a platform for it to go on to. Go to CandaceOwens.com and check it out. But anyways, back to Kennedy's lawyer. Essentially, he is under heat from Republicans, by the way. In a statement from McConnell, he essentially said he contracted this disease as a child in 1944, 11 years before the licensing of the first polio vaccine. And he said, quote, the polio vaccine has saved millions of lives and held out the promise of eradicating a terrible disease. Efforts to undermine public confidence in proven cures are just not uninformed. They're dangerous. Anyone seeking the Senate's consent to serve in the incoming administration would do well to steer clear of even the appearance of association with such efforts. Great. Okay, Mitch McConnell, that is your take. Here's what we are asking you to do. Rather than puffing your chest out and saying this is dangerous and misinformation, sit down and have a debate. Because right now you are pretending that you are an educator. You are pretending that the issue is Aaron Siri, that the issue is RFK Jr. You are purporting that these vaccines saved lives. If all of that is true, it should be very easy for Mitch McConnell to sit down and have a conversation with RFK Jr. about the history of the polio vaccine. My best guess is he's not going to do that. Why is it my best guess? Because who are the biggest lobbyists in DC? Big Pharma and APAC, right? This is why it's never-ending wars and it's never-ending vaccines. And people know where their bread is buttered. This is a huge part of the problem. Kids are not healthier. They are sicker. They never want to revisit the history of vaccines. It's all, like I said, fear and manipulation. And this isn't going to work. I'm going to bet this is not going to work. Mitch McConnell, the idea that you're just going to tell people these are terrible diseases and any person that stands in the way of Big Pharma is not going to be allowed into this administration. Everybody's tired of that. There's a reason that people voted for Donald Trump. There's a reason that people voted for the union of RFK Jr., Make America Healthy Again, and Donald Trump, because they want to shake up. They're tired of this dinosaur effort that doesn't debate any ideas and has this authoritarian approach to everything. And like I've said, throughout my entire Shot in the Dark series, when I had pediatricians, her dangerous misinformation, I invited these individuals onto the show to have a debate. They never want to debate it because there is no science there, okay? It's a cult. It's essentially, we're the doctors, we have the money, we have the press on our side, we've spent the money on your politicians, we are authoritarian, and you will listen to us. Like I said, that mirage is slipping, and that's in large part due to COVID. It's one of the great results of COVID is that people are finally seeing things for what they are. Vaccine rates are down all across the board. And I think if I have anything to do with it, Mitch McConnell, you're welcome to come on my show. By next year, as we drop not just our vaccine series, but also our birth control series, we really are going to see all across the world people waking up to what I believe has been a nefarious for-profit scheme and has been so heartless so as to intentionally poison and make kids sick with autoimmune diseases for decades. It's going on for decades, and I have full faith in what RFK Jr. is doing on the health side, and I fully endorse Aaron Siri sitting down with Mitch McConnell and speaking about these things in the manner that makes sense. So I'm very excited about that. All right, guys, I also am going to, I know so many of you guys have been messaging me about the New Jersey drones because I was sick all last week, as you guys knew, plus getting over here to London. I haven't done a deep dive into it, but I will have one ready for you tomorrow. I just want to say this to you. First and foremost, the headlines of people that are saying that it's Iran, I just cannot with the Iran propaganda. Guys, they just want World War III with Iran. They're blaming them for everything. I promise you. It's like Joe Biden trips in a bicycle. It was Iran. Trump almost gets assassinated. There were rumors that Iran was going to assassinate him in the middle of Pennsylvania. I hope you're starting to see this trend. Whoever it is that Israel wants to go to war with, we then get all of this propaganda, anti-propaganda, whatever that state is. Like, completely foolish for Iran to try to assassinate Donald Trump on live TV. And they kind of just dropped that narrative. But when I saw this with the drones, it was hard not to laugh, just to completely laugh at how ridiculous and how desperate the deep state is to make this Iran thing stick. When in reality, like I said, Israel just wants to go to war with Iran. That writing has been on the wall for years. I'll also say this, for those of you that are believing that the government doesn't know what these drones are please. They absolutely know what these drones are. They are very more than likely military drones. Obviously, if they did not know what these foreign objects were that were flying in the sky, they would have sent out the Air Force to take them out. They're not doing that because they know exactly what they are, they know exactly what they're doing, and they're just not yet ready to tell the public what that is. So that's just the common sense analysis of what's happening. I am happy to look into everybody's conspiracies, but I find it completely ridiculous to pretend we just don't know what it is, and we're totally happy to just sort of let aliens invade the planet. They do know that we never know what it is that our military is up to. And so maybe they're conducting military exercises. Who knows what they're doing in the region? I'll have more of a formulated hypothesis for you guys tomorrow, including regarding Luigi Mangione. I got to tell you, this has been really interesting. I am shocked by how many people do not believe he is actually the shooter. And I just last night started getting into some of those conspiracy theories of why people think that they don't have the right guy. Namely, I guess this tape of him outside fighting the police officer, saying that the public was not going to believe this. Let's take a listen to that.
Oh my God, that's completely out of touch. And it's an insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
So in case you couldn't hear him, he says, it is completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Why would he say that? Nobody knows why he would say that. It's also strange. And like I said, he comes from a lot of wealth. It turns out that he had no attachment to United Healthcare. It wasn't like he had some claim that was outstanding. So we're not sure about the motive. People find it strange that he was so high IQ and yet he was caught with the backpack and the manifesto and the weapon. And people are starting to believe that maybe they just stuck this on him. Like they just wanted, some real assassin came, took out Brian Thompson, and then they decided to place it on Luigi Mangione, who is an incredibly bright person. I think a part of the reason why people don't want to believe that he did this, aside from, I think, what they view as to be the evidence is too perfect, has to do with the fact that a lot of women are just confused because they think he's too good looking to commit this crime. So there's an element of that I think is quite compelling. Like I said, we're going to get into that, but you have an Ivy League graduate, obviously smart, valedictorian of his high school class. He was described by the friends that have come out thus far as a humble person. They believed he had a bright future. Yes, we are to understand that he did have some sort of a back injury that changed him a bit, but turned him into a plotting murderer to do something like that so coolly in the early morning in New York City. He's never harmed anyone, and suddenly he's just able to shoot someone, calmly walk away, and go get breakfast at McDonald's in Pennsylvania. I think that's what people are not quite understanding, and that's why there have been so many questions surrounding this case. Obviously, for whatever reason, there are links to Nancy Pelosi, because there always are. And so we're going to explore that angle as well. But send me any information you have, because it's exactly right up my alley. And I will give you guys a fair assessment of what I believe is going on with Mangione and Mangione's family. Very well-to-do, old family with a lot of wealth. And yes, it is not a typical assassin narrative that we are used to. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen. All right, guys, if you're feeling stressed about giving your family a memorable holiday, you are not alone. Prices remain higher than ever, and a lot of Americans are maxing out their credit cards. Now is the perfect time to take control of your finances and pay off that debt. If you're a homeowner, American Financing can help you unlock the equity in your home, and you can start saving right now. Their customers save on average $800 a month. Just imagine what that could mean for your family. Plus, if you act now, you could even delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you extra cash for the season. And wouldn't it be nice to start off the new year without that debt and those monthly minimum payments? It costs absolutely nothing to find out how much you could be saving. Christmas is going to be here before you know it, so call one of American Financing's salary-based mortgage consultants today. You can call now at 800-795-1210. Again, that number is 800-795-1210, or visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. Again, that's americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, guys, before we get out of here, let's read some of your comments regarding episodes past. First and foremost, from the USS Liberty episode, amazing. I think, what are we at? 4.7 million views, Skylar? It's insane. And I'm just so grateful that it worked out for us and worked out, more importantly, for the remaining veterans of that terrible day. And we absolutely should be honoring them and speaking about what happened to them every June. It's completely ridiculous that they're already pushing October 7th remembrance in the classrooms, and we're not even allowed to talk about the USS Liberty. Anyways, I've spoken enough. This person, Grappling, writes, U.S. Navy vet here, 1967 to 1971. The crewmen were told that their families would suffer if they talked. For over 40 years, I have tried to get this story to be told. Unbelievable. I mean, like I said, I feel grateful that I had the platform to get this story out to the world, but the more vets that write to me and tell me how they were hushed or how they knew they were getting attacked and how everyone was being threatened, it really wakes you up to the monstrosity of, Israel's influence in our politics, that we would turn away from our veterans and make them suffer in this way. I mean, to see Philip and to have Phil Turney crying in the way that he did, I think it really stood out to a lot of people, and it really made a difference. Sherry Hudson writes, I'm a 74-year-old lady, and I can tell you, Lyndon Baines Johnson was a horrible, despicable man. We lost many friends and neighbors in the Vietnam War. Yeah, I also believe he intentionally killed Christians and he intentionally killed Black people, but we're going to save that for another day. Smelly writes, my grandfather died refusing to talk about this out of fear. Now I am beginning to understand. Wow. It's unbelievable. That is just unbelievable. I mean, if they were really threatening to harm people's families, and you can imagine he did that as an act of service to your family. Obviously, my interview with George has also been watched. I think we just crossed 2 million views. Me and my husband, he never speaks. And so I think people were like, what does this Englishman think about Candace? She's a bombastic American. Lambs writes, I know people keep saying Candace needs to hire personal security for her protection, but can we just stop and remember how much her husband, George, who goes to mass every day, is praying for Candace? What protection is better than a husband praying for his wife? All around the world, I say this all the time, the prayers have really kept me safe. And I think a lot of people have felt this is the Christ is King year. And what I mean by that is Christ is always King. It's not like he needs a year, but you can just feel spiritually people are tuning in a way that I don't think we've seen happen before. People were actually spinning conspiracy theories about how many people in the public sphere were getting baptized and thought there was some conspiracy going on with it. And I just think that the Holy Spirit has been moving. And people are alert and recognizing that this is a battle of good versus evil. And you have to decide what side you're going to be on and stick it. Q Cakes writes, Candace is a totally different person when in front of her husband in the best way. She gets so feminine and her face just looks softer. I love it. Yes, he has an effect on me. I still really like him. He's just a very handsome guy, which too many of you wrote in the comments. Too many of you ladies wrote that in the comments. I'm writing down all of your addresses. Miracle Bro writes, I knew her husband was going to be a stoic, calm, quietish dude, as the English are. They're much more reserved than us, but they do like the American spirit. Regarding the Brett Cooper out at the Daily Wire announcement, Psycho Barbie, I love that handle. Psycho Barbie writes, look, just like Candace outgrew working for a company, so did Brett. It's time for her to move on to something great. So if you guys supported Candace when she stuck out to do all of the amazing things she's done, then send the same energy to Brett. Couldn't agree more. That's why we linked her channel. I know tons of you guys were having trouble finding it. Just reminding you, if you look up on YouTube, B Brett Cooper, so put a B and then Brett Cooper, then you'll see her channel. I think a lot more of you found it. I'll also include it in the comment section. The comment section with Brett Cooper. Gabby Flores writes, thank you so much for putting her channel in the comments. I've been searching for her since yesterday and it just would not pop up. Thanks for all that you do. Yes, until she starts creating content and depending on what the Daily Wire does with her old channel, it'll keep recommending her old channel for a little bit until things get changed. But no bother whatsoever, because we will keep promoting her on the show. And I will have her as a guest in the new year without question. It'll be good to do some collab stuff with her. I miss her. Lastly, Lawrence the Homestead writes, Brett and Candace collaboration. Yes, absolutely promise it. Promise it. Maybe we will do like a little Friday collab, like every Friday or something, and we'll do culture. Like we'll go into Luigi Mangione and figure out what we can find and fun stuff like that to just keep people remembering where her new channel is so that they can support her, because like I said, she is a tremendous talent. And so I am happy to send every bit of support her way. All right, guys, that's it. That's all we have for you from London. Remember me, the anti-Semite of the galaxy. Vote for me for next year. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you guys tomorrow.